sometimes,
Mhm.
sometimes
Yes.
I want to someone
Okay.
uh, would no could
Okay.
help me to do my job.
Oh, what an excellent example. Okay. Sometimes you want someone to help you with your job. Probably you have a lot of activities. Am I right?
Yes, correct.
Good job. I like it. I like your examples. So we have no problem identifying the difference between one, anyone, someone, etc. Today, I want to have a really quick uh, lesson talking about this topic because I wanted to see how to ask a question using these persons because it's very common to ask questions in English using indefinite pronouns, okay, but we always get confused with the question. It's very necessary that you start identifying the formula for the question, auxiliaries, okay. So I want you to use these indefinite pronouns, these structures. Okay, let's begin with understanding auxiliaries. What is an auxiliary? Okay, in English, we say that an auxiliary is the help of the verb. An auxiliary is the personal assistant to the verb. Okay, and what type of activities or what type of things does the verb help? Number one, it helps the verb with number one the context of conversation, and number two, time. It's time. What do you mean with context of conversation? Do you remember what is context of conversation? Come on, guys. You can do this. Context of conversations.
But what is the question?
What is the what is the context of conversation? What is this?
Mm, it's possible present, past.
Close, close, close. You're very close.
These connectors, which, that.
Connectors. Nope. That's also different. Let me help you with this. We are talking about
Affirmation or
kinda something like that. Yes, it's about the structures, but we need to understand what is context. Context is if I am speaking about moments in the past, what is the auxiliary that I need to use?
did.
Exactly. So my context is actions in the past,
Okay.
finished actions, you see?
Mhm.
And all the context exists in the structure's handbook. These are the contexts. If I am speaking about routines and I want to ask a question about your routine, what is the auxiliary that I need?
Routines do and does.
Do and does, you see? So that's precisely what I'm talking about. When we use auxiliaries, auxiliaries help me select the context of the conversation and the time of the verb. Do you understand now?
Yes.
Yes. What about Benji? What about Elsie? Do you understand the well what I mean with context?
So I need to see examples.
Okay, you have all the examples here. Let's say, for example, with descriptions and locations. Number one, no? According to the formula, we need the verb be and then, well, the verb be and a description. An example of a description is, for example, important. Important is a description. Make a question. Is it important to study grammar? Observe the formula and it's the same. Is it important to study grammar? Answer: yes, it is important to study grammar. So the formula matches, the formula and the auxiliary matches the context. The auxiliary and the formula need to match the context all the time. Let's go to another example. Routines. A question for routine. Give me an example of a routine. Example of a routine, anyone?
I usually
Mm-hmm.
to do exercise for the morning.
Eliminate two.
I usually do
Mm-hmm.
exercise for the morning.
El connector for the morning.
I usually do exercise for the morning.
Eliminate four.
No? In the morning?
In the morning. Excellent.
Okay. I usually do exercise in the morning.
Perfect. So that's a routine, right? This is something that we do every day or usually. When you ask a question, you will have only one auxiliary possible because you are talking about routines. The only possible auxiliary in this case is do. Do you do exercise in the morning? You see?
Is do or does, no?
Do or does, depends the person, no?
Yes.
But at the end,
Okay.
is the same.
Mm.
Do and does are for routines. You see? One extra example, the one that is more difficult, have and has. We use have and has when we are talking about, let's talk the easy periods of time. You know? How long have you studied English with me? Let's start with Elsie.
I
Mhm.
had been.
That's almost. Been is an extra verb. That's not necessary. How
I
long have you studied?
I have studied
Exactly.
English with Mr. Fernando
Mhm.
Um, during.
During.
No. Yes, during 4 months.
During 4 months. That's the one, girl. That's correct. Look at this example. Automatically we say have been, right? And that's a very common mistake. Many students connect have and been incorrectly. Been is not necessary. Been is only the verb in past participle. So you need to change the verb that corresponds to the question. I have studied, I have cooked, I have been, I have worked.
So I had been a study is incorrect.
Correct, exactly. It's incorrect. You cannot collocate two verbs in past participle form together because I don't understand if you say have been or have studied.
Oh, it's only with
ing.
ing, no? I had been studying.
Correct. Exactly. That is the one. Because the verb to be is the auxiliary for ing. So in that case, yes. This structure is very common, very common to have problems with have plus past participle. And we need to remember the correct match. If I am speaking about periods of time, I need to use have and has. Never did, never could, never was. Okay, the context matches the auxiliary. That's precisely the point in this case. So all this is a review of auxiliaries, because what happens if I ask you for specific questions? Ask me a question. Ask me a question to check if I have pendings to do. Use something. Okay, this is going to be your first task. Ask me a question to check if I have pendings to do. Who wants to try? No, it's not something, it's anything. Do you know what is pendings? Yeah, right? Okay. Who wants to try? Volunteers to the Hunger Games.
Teacher, is possible to say, have you?
Mm-hmm.
No.
You need to check what context are we speaking about. Periods of time, routines, future.
Have you
Mm-hmm.
anything pending
Okay.
to do?
Anything pendings to do. Close. Have you is auxiliary for periods of time. We are not speaking about periods of time. What are we speaking about?
Do you have
Do you have?
anything to do?
Perfect. That's correct. Do you have anything to do today? You see? The word anything makes me understand that you don't know if I have activities today. You don't know about the existence of my activities. Another question. Ask me if I have had lunch already. I'll make lunch. How do you say this?
Have you had omit lunch?
Eliminate omit.
Okay.
Omit es omitir.
Okay. Have you had some lunch already?
Close. Now use a indefinite pronoun.
Have you had something?
Have you had something? Exactly. Or
Something.
something. It can be anything too, eh? I think in this context, it's more common to use anything.
Okay.
Because you don't know if I had lunch. You know, people usually say, hey, have you had anything to eat?
Okay.
That's a very common expression. Why do we use auxiliary have?
Anything use because is think or is in person?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Think is food.
Okay.
You know, and food corresponds to things, not persons.
Anything is
Correct.
okay.
Let me
Is
give
right.
you a note for the auxiliary. Okay. Note about the auxiliary. We use do in this case because we are talking about a routine. Because the context is a routine. In this case, we use have.
Teacher, why the first part is a routine?
Why the first part is a routine? Because a
Oh.
pending is a routine. One thing, the pending is a routine, and the second one is the word today. The word today is helping me understand that you are talking in present.
Okay.
You know, if you change today for, sometimes today can be for present routines, and sometimes today can be for past. If I tell you, did you have lunch today? It depends on the time.
Okay. Oh, it's confusing for me.
Confusing. Okay, let me help you then with colors. We go to routines. The purple words are going to give you the the context of the conversation.
Okay.
So if you use always, often, usually, frequently, etc., this is how you identify that this is a routine. Do and does.
But in the but I when you
Example.
and you return to
Sure.
the uh, but if I only read the part ask me a question to check if I have pendings to do.
Mhm.
Um, there isn't the word today. So how
Oh,
can identify that this is a routine?
excellent question. Good. So we can go to the definition of auxiliary. In the definition of auxiliary, it has two two applications. One, it helps with the context of the conversation, right? And two, it helps with the time of the verb. So have is in present.
Okay.
That's the way that you can identify the time without a time expression.
Yeah.
So let's add this information in this case. You can identify the correct auxiliary by paying attention to the time of the verb and
Mm.
or time expressions.
Yes, it's different than the number 6 because in the number 6 we have past.
And past participle.
Okay. Okay.
Exactly.
Thank
So
you.
the past participle can help you.
Yes. Thank you, teacher.
That's the way. You are understanding my point. This is so difficult sometimes to to teach because I am trying to eliminate grammar, you know? And the best way to eliminate grammar is understanding the intention of the speaker. See? So why are we using have in this case? In the second example, why do we use have? What are we talking about?
General, no. General past or recent past?
Excellent, girl. Because we are talking about recent past. Very good. Just as we have in the structures handbook. In the structures handbook, we have that auxiliary have is used for recent past. The recently or the currently is implicit. Sometimes it's not necessary to say the time expression. You know that it's recent. So I see Elsie understanding. That's very nice. But what about Benji and what about Laurita? Are you super confused?
I guess that we use a have because in the example use a have like the auxiliary. If I have, had.
Okay, okay. That's another way, of course, but why do we have in the original example? You know, at the end is the same question. In the original example, this is have had lunch. Okay, why have had? Because we are talking about recent past.
Okay.
It's the same.
I have had, yeah. Okay.
So we decided to use the verb and the auxiliary because the context determines the verb and the auxiliary, not the opposite. Always the context determines the verb and the auxiliary. Now let's go to the next one. Ask me a question. Ask me a question. No, ask a lot of people in the room. Ask a lot of people in the room, or no, not a lot of people. Everyone. Ask everyone in the room if they are hungry. How do you do that?
Is anybody?
Is anybody okay?
Is anybody hungry?
Is anybody hungry? Oh, very good. Is anybody hungry? And in the same case, actually, this is some information I want to give you. Anybody or anyone, both are correct.
Which is the most common
Both.
in
There's
this
no difference.
structure? No?
I wouldn't say there is one that is better. Anybody and anyone, we can understand. Something that I want you to observe, something peculiar about this, is that for questions, we always use the one that starts with any. So you are going to omit all the rest. This is not necessary. And this is necessary for the exam, guys.
Teacher, I
Yes.
don't get it. I didn't get this.
Yep. The word that you use for questions, you never use somebody, for example. Never. It's always the question with the person that starts with any. The same case happens in the, for example, when you have existence. You don't know, you want a coffee, no? But you need sugar. The question should say, is there any sugar? Never some.
Also in negatives?
No, in questions. Only questions.
Any questions?
For questions exclusively.
Okay.
Negative, the better is none. But for questions, never use some, never use no, and never use every. Exclusively for questions.
Just to be sure, this last example is the number 3
Yes.
right now.
Right now.
Yes. Ah,
What do you mean? The context?
yes, the contest.
Oh, almost.
Is number 3, number...
The formula, no? The formula number
Yes.
3?
Oh.
Almost. Formula number 3 uses verbs in ing.
Oh, yes.
Look at one that has a description, adjective. Ta-da!
Number 1?
Number 1. Exactly. Yes. Hungry is a description. Therefore, this is formula 1. Using the verb to be. Note. We use the verb be because we have a description. So we are analyzing questions in every sense. Thinking in Spanish, this is very useful. Let's talk in Spanish. Es muy común que queremos decir normalmente, no sé, estamos jugando cartas y alguien dice, ¿alguien tiene un 4? ¿Cómo preguntarían eso en inglés? Ese alguien debe de tener una forma en inglés. Y como es una pregunta, tenemos que considerar que primero tenemos que decir el auxiliar. Esta parte siempre la omitimos cuando se trata de hacer preguntas, porque en español no existe el auxiliar. Por eso es tan difícil enseñar el auxiliar y que como hablante de segunda lengua lo adaptemos en nuestro lenguaje, porque no existe en español. En el caso de los conectores, encontramos una traducción. El del qué, de dónde y el cuál, todos los que vimos en la semana anterior. Pero los auxiliares no se pueden traducir, entonces siempre los olvidamos cuando estamos haciendo una pregunta. Eso es bien común. La persona que logra hacer una pregunta en inglés ya se puede considerar persona hablante intermedio. Entonces practiquen estas preguntas al 100, lo más que puedan. So, como preguntarían, ¿alguien tiene un 4? Si están jugando cartas. Let's try with Elsie. Yes.
Has anybody a 4?
Has anybody a 4?
And number
incomplete.
4.
Because has anybody is for periods of time, recent past, but we are not talking about that. Possession is always with do. Do
Do
or
you
does.
have, no, do you have anyone?
Okay, you have double person.
Uh,
You is a
do
person.
you, no, do anybody?
Very good, casi, almost. Si estamos hablando.
Does anybody?
Exactly. Does anybody
Does anybody have
have?
for?
Yes.
Okay.
Does anybody have a for? Creo que sería bueno añadir en el Structures Handbook que las posesiones también son do and does. Porque cuando usamos have, no piensa en possessions. Cuando usamos have, siempre lo confundimos con el auxiliar. Y ese no tiene nada que ver cuando decimos have you, así decimos do you have. Lo voy a
Does
actualizar.
anybody have?
Does anybody have? Exactly.
How do you say carta?
Letter.
Letter.
Ah, perdón, ¿carta de juego o carta de escritura?
A four, only a four?
Sí, yes. In carta de juego es a 4, a 5, a 6, a 7.
Okay.
If you are talking about things that normally happen, or if we are speaking using the verb have. Identify the difference between do you have versus have you. From formula. That information is super important. Tips to identify the usage of verbs in present. And questions use with auxiliary do and does. These tips are important. Fíjense, no había considerado el have como que necesario en esta fórmula, porque a veces asumo que es fácil entender que el have es tener y tener se dice do. Entonces, si digo tienes pendientes, tengo que usar do. Pero bien, como bien dijo él ahorita, oye, espérate, do, ¿cómo sé que los pendientes son rutinas? Right? ¿Qué tal si son pendientes de ahorita y no de mañana? O sea, realmente estaba muy ambiguo. Aquí la razón de esto era el verbo have. Entonces ahí tenemos que contrastar have you versus do you have.
Please, ¿nos reenvías esta nueva hoja?
Sí, yes. Sí, esta actualización se las tengo que mandar.
Entonces, do you
Definitivamente.
have para rutinas y posesiones.
Y possessions, ajá. And
Y
have you is Formula 5 for experiences, present, past, or periods of time.
Okay.
Así contrastamos Fórmula 1, 2 con Fórmula 6.
Otra vez,
Yes.
Fórmula 5.
6, sorry.
6.
Dije 5, pero no, it was 5. Era 6.
Thank you, teacher.
Yes, of course. Estoy... Eliminar gramática requiere todo esto. Disculpen la confusión, pero es que estoy tratando de darle la menor cantidad de gramática posible por medio por una vía conversacional en vez de una vía gramatical. And that's the way, my people. Very good class, eh? Very good class. No sabía que teníamos que revisar auxiliares tan a profundidad. Very good. So, en el examen les voy a pedir que me pregunten cosas usando anything, anyone, and anybody. Alright. Pueden ser preguntas abiertas como lo hicimos en las clases anteriores, pero también pueden ser opciones. Van a haber de varias. ¿Vale? Eso con tal de que manejen preguntas. Es una de las cosas que más me gustaría que ellos lograran hacer, porque ahí es donde se nota el avance. Ya están entendiendo tanto las palabras en inglés como la estructura. And ready, my people. Do you have any question? Do you have any question? Any. Easy. Fantastic. We finished for today. All right. Go and celebrate your moms. Go and celebrate yourselves. And have a very good night. Happy Mother's Day, my people.
Muy buena clase. Thank you.
Yes, of course. It was fantastic. Very useful.
Thank you. Good night.
Have a good night. I'll see you tomorrow.
Good
All right.
night.
See you tomorrow.
See
Bye.
you.
Bye.